Hi guys, welcome to my show, My Steps to Sobriety, on YouTube and podcast. And today is a great, fantastic day because I've got a new guest for the show, and that is Michelle Barrial. Michelle has very kindly agreed to come onto my show to be a leader and educator about anxiety and to give me her take on the fact that you don't really need the Dutch courage to do amazing things out there. Michelle, welcome to us. I'm so pleased that you're here.
Thank you very much for having me, Stefan. I'm very pleased to be with you and your audience, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful exchange.
Thank you very much. Many other guests I have started off to ask them about what they wanted to do when they were children. But and with that, I wanted to loosen my guests up and I wanted to paint the diversity of your dreams and then the reality as life develops. That doesn't really work for you, this question, because already in childhood, you were exposed to alcohol and what it can do to people. Are you happy to share a little bit about that?
Yes, I experienced that in my immediate family, as well as some other relatives in my father's side of the family and on my mother's side of the family as well. So on both sides, I had that experience where they were basically alcoholics, and they would sometimes go on binges, for days on end, where they would get lost and no one could find them. And my aunt, for instance, could not pay the rent or feed her kids because he had gone with the money on his binges. And so I remember hearing my family very concerned about my uncle being, basically irresponsible with his family, duties, and leaving them high and dry, trying to figure out how they were going to feed the family when he had just taken the money and disappeared. And also, of course, worried about if he was alive and if he was okay and what was going on. So that I remember as a child, going through those worries with my family. And, as a child, you don't really understand what that means, the ramifications of the disappearance of a relative or a loved one when they should be at home. You don't really completely understand that. But as I grew up, I definitely understood that, yes, he was being irresponsible and he was being very selfish in a way because he was leaving his family behind to go and just have fun and continue, binging on the drinking. So, and in my immediate family, my dad was more of, in that era, was kind of like always teetotalers or happy hours, but happy hours would extend for many hours after the 2-hour limit, and he just continued to drink. And I guess it was a socially acceptable thing. So I think that for many years, even they would say, oh, here, as a child, here, you want some? And I was like, okay. I would take a little sip, but I was like, oh, this stuff doesn't taste good to me. And as a child, I didn't enjoy it. So I remember thinking that it was totally okay to drink until you passed out or until you had to be taken to bed by somebody else because you couldn't maneuver your way up the stairs. So a lot of those experiences I had as a child, and they really stayed with me to think about how to act as I grew up, what I was going to be doing to be able to be responsible for myself and my loved ones, as well as, friends that were with me when we would go out and so on. So it was a big way to explore, coming of age and going through all the challenges of, do you stay with your peers and follow along, or do you just decide that you're going to abstain, or what, all those challenging questions at that time when you're trying to fit in with your friends and so on. So it was definitely a sort of a roller coaster experience through my puberty and into adulthood. Was trying to figure out what was the right thing for me to do. So I've learned a lot
Wow.
since then.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't remember it myself in my family, but there are certainly the stories that my mum looked into that called for the money that we needed to get myself diapers and food, and it was gone. And my father was gone too, and he was playing cards and drinking in
Right.
a cafe for days without end.
Hmm.
And I can't remember any of that, but I can remember sort of the cocoa flying through the air from this side and the cup flying through the air from that side. So yes, and then sooner or later a
I
divorce.
Exactly.
So,
A lot of
isn't
drama
it?
because invariably when they lose control of their emotions and also again of their physical sensations, they get enraged when someone's telling them, to actually stop or get control of themselves or try to tell them not do that in front of the children and all of that. But they just at that point they're you just like you said become more enraged and even violent, and you experience a bit of violence usually associated with people that are on a binge, basically. And
Unfortunately.
it's very sad to watch. It's very sad to see them destroy themselves, destroy their family life, and just really
And
not.
obviously, you were old enough to actually take that in and experience it. I did
Yeah.
not get that memo. I was too young
Mm.
at that stage. What age group are we talking about now? How old were you then?
Since I was well, it was since I was young, like 6, 7,
Yeah.
8, and then through puberty, through my tens and
Mm.
13s, and I remember at that point I was like answering back, like, you shouldn't get like that. That's really
Uh,
terrible that you get like that. And,
uh,
and just calling him on it and saying that, it made me very sad, his behavior
mm,
with my father. And, with my uncle, I just was agreeing with my family that he needed to go seek outside help, professional help, if they could convince him to do so, because he was just too many years in the same, repetitive cycle of not, improving for a few weeks and then again, falling off the wagon, as they say. So, I did experience that, like I said, on my father's side and my mother's side. So it's just very interesting growing up like that because you could see that, living that kind of lifestyle was definitely one where you were always, in a way, afraid for them. Are they going to be okay? Are they going to come home? Or did something happen? They disappeared? And worried also about your family, like, how are we going to manage? How are we going to, are they going to beat each other up when he gets so, mad? And it's just a lot of things to be living in fear, basically, is what I think for a lot of children who have alcoholic family members. It's
mm.
living in fear for your life and for, your well-being and the well-being of your other members of your family.
I
Yeah.
wrote a chapter on that in my book, My Steps to Sobriety, and the impact that alcohol has on families and the indirect effect on the children. And there's actually so much going on that is never spoken about. But from a
Right.
very early age on, they realize that they cannot rely on others, that
Hmm.
promises that are given to them are tonight we're going to have some yummy food, and then when they come home from school there's already drinking going and there is no food on the table,
Right.
and these kind of
The
things.
promises are broken. Mm.
Absolutely, constantly. And that filters through into adulthood, that children from alcoholic families, which are
Hmm.
probably 1 in 10 in the United States, easy, maybe more, maybe
Easily, right.
maybe 1 in, yeah, 1 in 5. Um,
Hmm.
these children will have later on problems to develop trust in relationships. They
Exactly.
will, no doubt, always question, will this person be there for me? And they will
Exactly.
have their own anxiety without actually knowing what's going on, but they will be not as trustworthy. And you could look at that as a positive thing. Are you going to be disappointed anyhow by people in your life? So therefore, if you have got your warnings up and if you have got your defenses up, then they can't hurt you. Yeah, about that. That doesn't work in the
But
long run.
right, because actually it creates, as you said, if they're being very defensive or you're being defensive because that's what you experienced, that's the only way to protect yourself and your feelings and so on, then like you said, it's very difficult to have solid, intimate relationships, with loved ones because you, like you said, you don't trust, people saying that they're going to do something and actually follow through. And because you've been disappointed many, many times. And you also don't feel that, same thing, can you really go into a depth of intimacy because you're kind of like, I don't want to get hurt. I've been hurt a lot and I don't want to be there again. I don't want to bring up those feelings again because it brings up too many other feelings. And so, yeah, it's very challenging. That's actually, I think, why I got a lot into personal development of myself was to work on my own stuff.
Mm.
And then in turn, help others in similar circumstances or with similar experiences. So I started practicing with hypnosis and all of that helped me to kind of get a handle more on my thoughts and my feelings that were created in my mind so that I can work on little by little processing them, really eliminating them and coming, as they say, into a sense of peace in my heart, after many, many years and many struggles, basically. So it just, you have to do self work. That's what I think is really to help yourself. The bottom line is you have to do a lot of self work to be able to love yourself fully and then give yourself what you didn't receive in your life. So I think that's a big part of what you're doing now is because you're reaching out to people through your book and through this medium, and you're offering, some consolation that, hey, I've been there, I understand you, I get it, and you're providing that sense of trust for them to maybe even tune in, call you, maybe ask questions, that way you're providing a doorway for them to feel like they're not alone, that they're not the only one going through this experience. So I think that's very, very positive all around for the people that are out there that are listening and that, can recognize themselves in past experiences that are similar to what we experienced.
Isn't it amazing how many of us will actually, if they listen and tune into this podcast or video channel, if they will find themselves nodding and think, yeah, okay, I've been there. And it might be the first time that they actually get that inkling, hang on, actually, that is quite right. Because unless you have really done the work, you might have actually not recognized that link. You have
Right.
taken it for granted that, yeah, that was my childhood. And, here, look at me, I'm good now. And
Right.
then actually, when you sort of peel away the masks off the faces and
Yeah.
you suddenly see, well, A, you're not all right. B, you're just, you're struggling, and maybe some of the struggles you had very little chance to avoid just by the nature of your upbringing and what has happened to you when you were a younger child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other thing
So
you
true.
said that struck me was the irony that your parents were pointing their finger to Uncle so and so, and oh, he really needs help, whilst they themselves, no, we are normal, it's absolutely all
Right.
right. But him, oh, look at him, oh boy. Yeah.
Exactly. It's easier to look outside. It's always like that, right?
Isn't it?
The problems are always over there, not here. They're always over there. It's true because
So
they assume that he was worse off because he was disappearing.
yeah.
Whereas my father would actually just stay at home and get bloody drunk and it was okay. But because he didn't run off with anyone
Mm.
else or the money or anything like that, it was like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. So like you said, they didn't think of it as anything wrong because it was a different, it played out differently. But as you said,
Yeah.
it's, they have to look really, really hard and closely at themselves to realize, this person's mirroring for you what you are doing. It's just maybe in a smaller way, or in a less, you might think of, destructive way, but it's equally destructive because you're destroying yourself and the
Yes.
relationships with everything that's going on.
Your dad was just a little bit higher functioning than your uncle. Ultimately, if yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
Oh
just
dear.
a little. Yeah,
But
yeah,
but
yeah.
then there is another thing that has come out of so far from talking to you. You most definitely have the genetic predisposition to become an alcoholic. You
Hmm.
most definitely have got the the gifts from mommy and daddy in your cell cores. Yet here you are. You never went down the route of alcohol. And isn't that amazing? So whilst yes, genetics do play a role, what is often much, much more powerful is the self-work and the insights that you can develop to learn the lessons from your parents, from your uncle, see how they dealt with things, and they didn't know better. That
Right.
was
That's
what
really a
they,
lot. I think
that
that
was
has a lot to do with it because
exactly.
back then things were like kind of hush hush, and things weren't as, I guess, as exposed as we are nowadays. Everybody
Mhm,
has TV shows or virtual shows of their own lives on
mhm,
screen, and with Facebook, everybody's like more open about a lot more things, I think.
mhm,
So I think that things are more visual to people. They can see what's going on in other people's lives, is what I'm saying. Whereas back 30, 40 years ago, it was all very much, like I said, very hush hush,
mhm.
and so no one talked about those things at
Correct.
all.
That's correct. But it was also everything was normal then. Remember, there was no
Mhm.
internet. There was
Right.
nothing that easily was accessible for you to
Exactly.
seek help. Number one.
To seek
Number
help.
two
True.
is it was not accepted that you are weak because a man has to be strong and a woman
Exactly.
has to be pretty barefoot in the kitchen and throw out the litter as it goes. If you
That's
were
right.
more in a religious kind of a uh, traditional upbringing, or if it was like the case in my parents, well, I was a how do you call them in English? Latchkey kids, I think.
Oh,
It
yes.
was the 70s, 80s. I was from the word go alone at home. And I was
Mm.
looking after myself because both my mum and my dad were working. There were no easy ways for them to put the kids somewhere. No, it was all uh, work, and then come home and drink and relax. So
Right.
it was different times, different
Exactly.
expectations, and I think we need to give our previous generation, we need to give them the the credit, and we need to be fair to them to say we cannot we cannot actually address we cannot judge them by the standards of today. I think this would be
True.
a
True.
grave mistake.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, each time has its way of developing and learning from their surroundings and the
Mm,
media at that time, the way things were portrayed. Obviously, we're all affected a lot by media and the shows that we see and things like
mm,
that.
mm.
So, yes, it was a very different time. As you said, like it was considered normal to come home and relax. And one of the ways you relaxed was, as you said, having a drink or two, or who knows, you lost count.
Yeah,
But that was
exactly.
considered pretty normal. It's just a normal way
Yeah.
to handle your stress, basically.
So,
That was the way it was. You didn't Nobody was going to the gym per se, and no one was doing, God forbid, yoga or meditation. What's that?
exactly.
That was never even talked about. Nobody
Mm,
even knew what that was
yeah.
here in the West, really,
True.
till
And
the
spirituality
later.
at that time was linked closely to, oh, I'm
Right,
feeling
exactly.
spiritual. Oh, yeah.
Exactly, to the
And
era
what,
of, free love and the hippies and whatnot, that
exactly,
they
exactly.
had like a
So,
negative connotation at that time too.
mm. Or very
Yeah,
positive, if people could remember actually what they did. But that's another
exactly.
story. I think nowadays, yeah, we are blessed because we have got people like you and me who are happy to speak out, and by showing that you can overcome obstacles and that you actually can live a life that is absolutely fantastic and beautiful without drugs, without alcohol.
Right, right.
That can be a
You could
very
find
powerful thing.
other ways, as you said, to live your life that you feel content and that you feel, that you don't have to find sources outside of yourself, basically, to give yourself peace of mind, to feel relaxed. You're not looking for substances or, as they say, coping mechanisms nowadays, they call it. So you're not looking for exterior things to be able to feel, I can feel relaxed without smoking a joint or drinking a drink. And I can find other ways to relax that are, equally pleasing to my body and my mind. And
Mm,
so those are things that, again, if you've worked on yourself, that you can have a sense of, okay, there's lots of other ways that I could choose to exercise outside and enjoy nature and be, with my friends, but we can have conversations instead, or watch movies together, or something else that's not necessarily with drinking and recreational drugs and so on. So there's lots of ways to have fun without those other elements. Basically, that's what I believe in. So yeah, that's something we all learn, and we learn sometimes through changing, for instance, our we can't change our family, so of course, and our genetics, as you said, but we can certainly change the people we socialize with, because at one time, the same thing, when a lot of my friends were choosing, to do drugs regularly, I was like, okay, I think I need some new friends. I think I am not going to stay in this circle because I didn't feel the same way they did. I realized,
mm,
maybe I was boring to them, or, oh,
no.
you're just, you don't know how to have fun, or whatever they would tell me. But I'm like, it's just, I do it differently. That's all. I think differently, and I know I need to be with people that think like I do. That you could do other things to have fun, and it doesn't necessarily have to be,
Mm.
like I said, recreational drugs or drinking. You could do a lot of other things that are a lot of fun. So I started going in a different direction, and my high school friends that I had known, some of them since childhood, like they just faded away. We just went in different circles, different social circles, and it's okay.
Absolutely true.
Times you don't always grow together, you grow apart, but sometimes it's
Yeah.
what you need, like, to grow. That's just it. You need to grow, and you need to grow in a way that you're happy with yourself. That's the most important thing. For you have to be happy
Mm,
and true to yourself. And many times I did things by myself because I couldn't find someone to join me
mm,
to go where I wanted to go. And I learned that it was okay, that it was really okay to be alone at a movie I really wanted to see, and there was no one to go with me, and I would go. Or I wanted to go to, I don't know what, a meditation group, and no one really thought that was really fun or cool. So I'm like, okay, I'll go by myself. And
it's
that's what I learned
beautiful.
to do. Yeah. So,
Beautiful. Michelle, that is exactly what people in recovery learn, because they have had their set ways, and it was typically for an alcoholic, it means that you were together with other alcoholics because you wanted
right.
to have that reassurance that your behavior is actually completely acceptable. So therefore
Exactly.
you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, and you're all drinking like fishes, and therefore it becomes absolutely normal. Yet then if you suddenly move in circles where someone has maybe an evening where there is no alcohol served, I would have thought at my drinking days, oh, what a horrible, horrible evening. And yet
What am I doing
now,
here?
yeah, I know, because I had literally not learned how to relax without alcohol. For me, alcohol had become, from the early 20s, such an integral part of my personality that it was literally impossible for me, without external help, to strip myself from that part of my personality. It was like cutting an arm off, ultimately. And maybe more than an arm, because sort of half a brain probably, and certainly lots of the emotions. Because what I experienced when I went into rehab and in the first few months after rehab was a void, an emptiness, a nothingness, where
Right.
I could not define myself. I could not tell you who I am. If you had asked
Mm,
me, Stefan, who are you? What do you like? What are your passions? There was nothing there. There was no
wow.
passion. There was no, it was just flat. And nowadays, fast forward 7 years, the passion with which I live, the energy that I put into living has virtually no bounds. But that was certainly
Nice.
not the case at an early stage.
Right. Absolutely.
May I ask, you have children? Have you?
No, my
No.
my pleasure is actually teaching children. I've been a yoga teacher for
Excellent.
children,
Excellent.
and
Excellent.
I've been actually a tutor for
Yeah.
children
Yeah.
through elementary school age. So because
Yeah.
I wasn't able to have any children,
Oh, sorry to
I
say.
teach everyone else's and enjoy
Perfect.
everyone else's.
Perfect. Perfect. No,
So
I guess
yes,
what I was trying to do is lead to the scenario where maybe a 14-year-old niece of you says, look, I know you're doing this work there with others, and I'm so in awe of you that you can talk to others and that you are so strong. I can't open my mouth in school. I turn beetroot red, and I'm, I can't talk to the boy that I really like, and I'm just so shy. But you know what, Auntie? I've had a drink and it felt so good. And it was so brilliant because I could talk and I was laughing and I was telling a dirty joke.
right.
uh, what would you say to that niece?
I would say that yes, definitely drinking initially gives you confidence, but again, it's just for a little while. It's not real confidence in yourself. It's just because the alcohol itself is a drug that brings down your inhibitions and also gives you that sense of like like when you're doing an athletic thing and you actually make an achievement, you're the best runner or you're the best, throwing the most baskets or whatever. So it's kind of like a runner's high, as they say, or when you have
Mm,
that part of your brain that's receiving the dopamine, and that's actually what makes you feel like super powerful and feel like you're confident and that you're not shy and you lose all your inhibitions to talk to whomever and even act really outrageous sometimes because you're feeling this euphoria, like you're happy. So yes, you can definitely get hooked on that feeling and want to experience that over and over, but you can actually still create that feeling within yourself without having to use alcohol or any other type of, recreational drug. You can
mm,
actually learn to feel that way about yourself every day if you just practice it. And that's really what creating confidence is about, learning to accept yourself as you are, and then also learning to love yourself whether or not other people are, opening up to you. But usually once you feel confident in yourself, other people are naturally going to be attracted to that energy that you're going to have, that upbeat positive energy. And when you're having fun even by yourself, laughing by yourself and so on, people are going to be like, what is she laughing about? Why
that's
does
right.
she look so happy? What is it that she's got that I want some of that? I don't know. I'm gonna go over there and talk to that person because they're curious about what it is that you have
Yeah.
that makes it seem like you are having fun and don't need anybody else, that you're okay with yourself. And that's really what the self-confidence that you can create in your life is going to help you to do. Whereas
Mm,
if you're relying on something from the outside, it becomes your crutch and you're always going to need something outside of you to feel
mm,
good, and that's not where you
yeah.
want to be. That's not really a complete life. That's actually just you're living through something else. You're not really experiencing life, and in fact it actually kind of puts like a damper on your feelings. You
Mm,
think you're feeling things but you're not, because you're numbed out. Your
mm,
brain is sort of anesthetized and your feelings are also, you know put in this sort of dreamy state, and it's not reality. So you're not really experiencing life fully when you're having a drink or any other drug to be able to think that you need to be high to feel good around people. So I would say to my niece that, to try doing things that think of what brings you joy and doing those things, whether you are with someone or not. If you can't find anyone to do them with, go and experience those things for yourself, and actually might find an opportunity where you meet other kinds of people that are on the same wavelength, the same energy pattern that you have, and then you'll attract a different crowd and you'll be happier because you'll have new people to experience what you want to experience in your life now. That's what I would say.
Perfect. It's a wonderful way. That's exactly where I would think I would go with such a question. For me as a doctor and for me as an alcoholic, the way she describes the high that she experiences is too good to be true. And and that's a silly saying. What I want to say is that she, just by her description, I know that she will become an alcoholic if we do not guide her in a better way.
Right.
The reason is she has got the superpower, the super dopamine response, where as an alcoholic you get far higher dopamine levels compared with people who don't have the genetic predisposition. So
Right.
therefore, for her, wow, really the lights go on and the fireworks go off, and it's beautiful. And
Right.
it's the magnitude of the pleasantness, the magnitude of the beauty that she's experiencing, which is so dangerous. And it will
Exactly.
never be again so beautiful. So again, that might be something to point out. The first time and the first few times will be like that. Sooner rather than later, that is no longer, you're not achieving that high and you want more and more and more.
Right. Right.
And
It
it's,
becomes a vicious circle, like you said, and
is
you
it
just
not?
want, you don't know how to control yourself. That's just it. You get out of control because, like you said, you want more and more of that sensation, so you lose
Not
yourself,
good. But the
basically.
problem, of course, is the next day, the anxiety is a nice description, because your anxiety will continue and it will be
Right.
far higher, because you suffered a hangover. You might have a memory loss and you have no idea what you have been up to.
What you did,
Or,
right?
that's right, or nowadays people put pictures out of you maybe not being such a nice position or nice way. I mean,
Right.
nowadays young girls, they all look the same. They know their perfect position, which typically with some lips out, and it's perfect. And the moment, if you dare to take a picture from the other side, their world breaks apart. And now, can you imagine then when they are under the influence of alcohol and someone takes a picture where you,
Exactly.
oh my goodness, the world ends. And I think
Exactly.
that's the kind of thing that I would also point out to that young girl, because she will be, the way she describes herself, I'm sure she's very self-conscious and self-aware of her social media presence, etc.
Absolutely. That's super important.
Isn't
That's
it?
everything nowadays.
I know. So there you are saying, well, actually, why don't you live your life? And yes, if there are nice pictures whilst you're doing something that brings you joy and brings you fulfillment, well, that's nice that you've got a nice picture of it, but don't make the pictures the sole purpose of your living. And I can see that this is quite hard. Do you work with younger people, or who's sort of the typical person that comes to you and that works with you?
I work with younger people. I've worked with children in elementary school
Mm,
and in junior high and so forth. So I've worked with younger people. And there is a lot of, peer pressure to fit in. And there is a lot of that, as you're saying, to want to be in that sort of, place where they are feeling elevated by their peers that are acknowledging them, like,
mm,
oh, look, you're doing, you could do this, you could do this, when they're going through, like, trying to drink the tequila, hit back the tequila, or do the shots, and you know they're trying to show off, obviously, that they have the ability to master their bodies. And so um, that's very common. So children, they're not even children, they still are children because they're under 18, but they are, they're doing what they think is like a rite of passage, that,
Mm,
if they can do these things, then they've made it, to a point where they can handle themselves. They feel like if they can,
mm.
not get sick and not fall over, that they're going to be okay.
The sad
But it's
thing,
not the case.
no, that's for sure not. The other thing is that strikes me is that we have made them walking billboards. They are really, they might as well have a big sign around them, because the liquor industry is actually very clever. They do social
Mhm.
media campaigners and influencers that are saying, here, you take our tequila brand and you do something really stupid and hold the tequila, and wow, you're great, and way, and you put it on our website there, which basically is you making free advertisements for them.
Exactly.
It's of course all out of your own free will, sure. And
Sure.
it is amazing the social engineering that is going on there
Of
behind the
course.
scenes. Oh my God.
Or like being dared,
Yeah,
Are you
exactly.
brave enough? Are you going to
Ah,
do this? Come
yeah.
on. It's usually that's how that goes. To fit in, again, they're going to take up their friends on those challenges.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, I don't necessarily have a problem with that happening once. If you want to be sick like a dog and vomit for hours into the porcelain bowl and call
Exactly.
Europe, that's fine with
That's
me.
right.
Do that
That's
once.
your
Do that
choice.
twice.
And
Yeah, that's
hopefully
right.
you'll learn from it. Not want to do it again.
That's right. And yeah, it's hard to draw the middle way between something of alcohol is evil, don't ever try it, to
No,
the oh no,
but you
alcohol is
just,
normal. Mm,
yeah, you just got to learn through your own mistakes. Unfortunately, you do have to learn through your own mistakes, even when you see it, happening to your friends and so on. You
mm,
don't really know what it's like until you experience it. So, as you're saying, in a way, they have to all experience it at least once,
mm,
sometimes maybe twice. But as
mm.
long as it doesn't become, a habitual thing, then you're going to be okay. But if it becomes something that you're doing habitually because you want to, again, please your friends, you want to be well liked or something like that, then that's where the problem is, because that definitely means that you're, again, seeking outside of yourself validation, and you're not
Mm,
believing in your own self-worth, and you're not worrying about, well, how do I feel? This makes me sick, but do I still want to keep doing this? Is this
mm.
something that's a good thing for me to do to myself? So I think that that's where young people have to focus on, you know more about what's important for them, make their choices based on their own needs and their own desires, rather than trying so much to follow the crowd, basically, and fit in.
Uh, Michelle, where are you based? Are you more in a rural setting or more in a city? What kind
In a
of
city.
in a
In a
city?
city. Yes.
Is there how easy is it for a young person to get alcohol nowadays?
Oh, very,
Very.
very, very easy. It's available everywhere.
Mm,
So it's, there's lots of, like I said, it's a city, so there's
mm,
plenty of places that
mm,
people can get it and consume it, and there's plenty of taverns and bars and resto
mm.
bars and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's it,
Same here too. I mean, the
yeah,
availability is just tremendous, and
exactly.
also the advertisement is therefore everywhere. And I found the advertisement side of it actually quite astounding. Even if you say that, well, actually, alcohol advertisement in the way that it was done in the 80s, 90s is no longer done. If you look at things like Netflix or Amazon, such productions, you might say, no, there is no alcohol advertisement there. a recent study actually looked at
Absolutely.
that. You know, they looked at that and they were saying every 3 minutes, regardless what
Every
you watch, you will see
exactly.
someone drinking alcohol, using alcohol, having alcohol,
Exactly.
you know, and it is amazing the way we are conditioned to believe that alcohol is absolutely normal.
That's normal and that it's glamorous.
That's right.
Because now you just said it, because most often the people that are having the fun are the ones, in the movies that are at a show or at um, in a casino or something of that nature where, that's more likely where it's going to be
Mm,
part of the fun. You can't have fun without it, So if you want to go and relax at the
mm,
casino and see a show and all of that, then
mm.
I mean, they offer it. They offer it. Play, keep playing. We'll give you more drinks.
Yeah,
So,
exactly, exactly. It's always
so
the most amazing thing. You pump oxygen into a casino, you give free drinks, and then
exactly,
you wonder that you've spent 12 hours flat out gambling and you have lost half of your house.
exactly, right.
How did that come about?
How
I
did that
wonder.
happen?
Oh
Exactly.
goodness! But
That's a
that's sorry.
no. It's a very interesting, like you said, that's a form of entertainment. A form of entertainment, like you said. I don't know.
uh,
That's there's definitely not a good way to, like you said, to go in and think you're going to have fun, that it's going to be free and that it's not going to be something that you're not going to regret, because that's right there is definitely a loaded combination. Playing with
well,
money and
well,
drinking alcohol, not a good thing.
no comment. Yes, exactly. Now,
Exactly.
luckily, I was never in that position. But I mean, I looked at the costs of drinking alcohol. And for someone like me, who was not a robust drinker, 2 bottles of wine wouldn't go very far. I mean, that was sort of the minimum. And a bottle of wine here is about $15. So even a special offer, $10, it quickly adds up by the time you've done, two bottles a day plus then an extra one that you then pour away the next morning because you say, no, I won't drink anymore. That's it. Down the gurgler it goes. And yeah, by the time you've blinked, it was 15, 20 bottles of wine a week, which can be
Mm.
a bit embarrassing when you do the recycling. And don't judge me, okay? I had a party. Yeah, right. So if you do the maths very quickly, you're $15,000 to $20,000 per year as per alcohol costs. And then the costs of you having takeaways and eating rubbish or buying stuff on Amazon or
Right.
whatever under the influence. So whilst my rehab, a month in rehab cost me 27,000, that's actually very quickly coming back in. So within a year and a half, that cost was offset with the fact that I wasn't drinking anymore. And then anything from thereafter, well, I'm
There's one way
saving
to look
20.
at it.
Well,
Yes.
exactly. I'm saving $20,000 a year just by
Wow.
not drinking. So it's quite cool to look at it from that angle. But your take on the whole thing is really the anxiety. And I love it. I love it. I love it because you are helping people to work on the underlying cause of drinking, the underlying cause of their whatever outlets they have. It might not be drinking, it might be gambling, it might be porn, it might be all kind of other outlets of their distorted energies.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the anxiety is often the underlying thing because we hate anxiety. The anxiety is a painful thing. So you want to get rid of the pain. You want the reward.
Exactly.
And that's why you use the chemical substances, etc.
Exactly.
So how do you go about this anxiety thing? It's not very nice. And have you
Mhm.
found the magic button? I come to you and you hypnotize me and we do that once and I go home and I'm all cured. Yes.
I, we,
No?
as you know, there is no magic pill out there. Even if they were to tell you, yes, there's no such thing.
Oh, hell, a lot of people want to peddle that pill, okay, or
Right, right,
whatever
right.
that. And if you really believe
Exactly.
that, they'll sell you also a used car and a life insurance.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
So,
There's no such thing as an instant cure-all, but it does hypnosis and other techniques that I use. I don't know if
yeah,
you've heard of tapping also.
yeah,
I use those techniques to be able to help the person, as you said, come back to the place where it all began. What is really the underlying anxiety? What is the initial event? Even in childhood, very often, more often than not, is there is an event tied to or correlated to the fact of that pain. And that childhood pain or trauma is really what's still replaying in their mind years later. And that's actually what's causing them to want to cover up that pain and want to hide it and want to use this sense of happiness or euphoria that they get when drinking because it numbs the pain, and that way they don't have to feel those feelings. So that's really one way that hypnosis works. And the tapping also is what I teach them to do, the tapping, so that they can continue every time that those feelings come up. They can process it themselves. They can learn to actually process, okay, I'm feeling anxious. My friends want to come over, and I don't know how I'm going to handle this because now I'm not drinking, and they still like to drink. So what am I going to do? So you can be tapping on yourself to get rid of that anxiety and bring the notches
right.
down, to a 5, and lower than a 5 is the ideal sort of gauge to measure your level of anxiety.
Mm.
So that's
Out
one
of
way that
10.
I
Out of
out
10,
of
you
10.
measure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, 1 through 10. Yes.
Mm.
So the idea is that you can program yourself to learn how to get rid of these feelings. That's the ideal way, because as you said, hypnosis is something that takes you back so that you acknowledge where the pain came from, and then you're ready to, maybe in one session, maybe in 2 sessions, it depends, but maybe when you're ready to let it go,
Mm.
you can completely let it go, and then you already know what was the trigger. So now what you're doing is just continuing to process any residue of those feelings each time a similar situation comes up. So each time you're in a group setting or you're in an unfamiliar setting, actually, that produces more anxiety, then you'll actually have a way to control it. So using tapping is one method that I recommend that they can use to, and breathing. My other favorite thing is breathing. So simple. But when you
Think
breathe,
about it, yes.
you can control your mind and you can control your body, but
Oh,
with
yes.
intention to taking a deep breath, as you hear people say, and relax. And you got to actually focus on sending that breath and that energy all throughout your body so that you truly can feel relaxed everywhere in all of your muscles and organs and everything. And that way you have control of yourself and how you're feeling and what you're thinking. So it gives you a sense of empowerment, really, that you can do this for yourself. You don't have to rely on me or any other therapy. But once you feel that you have control of yourself, your emotions, then whatever is happening on out there in your life and in your surroundings, it's not going to really have that much of an impact on you once you learn how to be able to relax your body, relax your mind, and be able to have tapping as a resource to be able to control those feelings that come up. So it's just about learning new ways to control old things that are still creeping around in your thoughts and
Mm.
still in your mind and your body, even though you think it happened so long ago, but it does really, really does affect you into adulthood if you don't take care of it. Really, those old traumas still hang around for a long, long time until you face them. It's like facing your fears and your doubts and trying to instead of them controlling you, you have to be able to be empowered to control them, those feelings and those thoughts when they come up.
100% agree. 100%.
Okay.
You're all those things that you have just described, I'm using and have used myself, and it is such a powerful thing. What I love to hear from you is that you teach these techniques for the people who come to you to actually learn and take away as their own.
Exactly.
So when you think about hypnosis, those of you out there who have never been exposed to it, it's not something stupid where they make a stage show out of you and will
No,
control your mind.
no,
None of that rubbish.
definitely not.
Uh, I had some PTSD, and that was playing havoc with me. And I sought out a life coach, and she did hypnosis with me. And it was an amazing sensation. And I had already a good repertoire of breathing abilities and exercises, but for
Awesome.
her to teach me the self-hypnosis and to give me other strings to my bow was just a very powerful thing.
Exactly.
So you have already alluded to three things, from the breathing to the self-hypnosis to the tapping. And that's quite important, because you might be the master of meditation and the master of, oh, give me half an hour and I will be just right. The problem is life doesn't wait half an hour for you. So the anxiety is there right now. And
And
actually,
fast. You got to
that's
act
right.
fast.
That's right. You need to do something, okay? And if you teach yourself how to breathe, or if you've got another technique that works for you, wow, this is so powerful.
Hmm.
And there are sometimes days when things don't go right. And
Of course.
I, as an anesthetist, I'm in theater. Sometimes there's got tense situations there. And often nurses say, wow, you are sighing a lot. You are breathing a lot. What's going on? I said, no, that's just fine. I'm just taking a deep breath. In reality, I'm centering myself. I'm
Of
calming
course.
down. I'm doing all the work there. And it is, they don't need to know that there
Of
and then.
course.
They know the tension is there anyhow. So now don't focus on me. Let's focus on the situation, kind of a thing. But yeah, learn as much as you can, guys, out there. Expose yourself to different techniques, because there might be moments where one technique is simply not practical. There
Hmm.
might be moments where your method just doesn't work. It works all the time, just not that moment. So
Right.
have a plan B, have a plan C. And that is where
Exactly.
working with someone like you, Michelle, is so powerful, because that's what you learn. That's where you focus. And the other thing that you said is dealing with the trauma. In my experience in the last 7 years, I thought I had dealt with, I've done my work. I've done my
Hmm.
12 steps. I've done it all. Thank you very much. I'm done, dusted, tick. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm. You think you've ticked it, and then it comes back, and you think, obviously, I need to do a bit more work on that particular drama, because that still keeps sending me waves from the past. Doesn't matter that it's 30, 40 years ago. It still says, hello, I am here.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
need a bit more work to be done.
Right.
And to give you a parallel example from medicine, when you get older, your joints give out. And sooner or later, you might actually have a hip joint replacement, for the sake of it.
Hmm.
So this really painful hip is being replaced. You learn to walk again and suddenly think, beautiful, life, bring it on. And then the other hip goes. Now, the other hip was going all the time, but that overshadowed everything, that one hip. So now you take the pain away, suddenly you realize the pain that comes from the other side. And that might exactly be the same with trauma. You think everything boils down to what happened when you were a child, and you deal with that and feel really good about it. And then suddenly something comes back to haunt you, so to speak, from when you were 20s,
Right.
and something that you had not thought about for a long time, because it was all overshadowed by something that appeared to be more urgent or more destructive or more a a danger to you, because that's
Hmm.
really what your body does. It goes back to the
Exactly.
reptilian brain, and this anxiety is basically, whoa, you need to be aware, because at the moment, if you're not aware, then the bear will kill you or the snake will bite you, etc.
Right.
And it made sense when you were on the cave floor. It doesn't make sense when your anxiety is all about meeting your friends or going out to a certain restaurant or so. It is just these these self mechanisms that were deeply, deeply programmed into you. They are on autopilot, and they come out at times when really, actually, where your autopilot is broken. And
Hmm.
that's where your techniques come in. That's where the self-hypnosis comes in. That's where those techniques come in, where you raise the awareness of what is really going on, the mindfulness, all these things.
Exactly.
So, oh, so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I mean, Michelle, I'm so pleased that there are people out there like you who can help, because certainly my PTSD, it was bizarre. Within 3 hypnosis sessions, that baby was put to bed. And
Perfect.
yeah, I was a fast responder there, and it was the most beautiful thing. And it was the moment I made the link, what was going on now, with what had been going on in the past. Then I could consciously and subconsciously work on it. But I had not made that link. I had not made
Mm.
that relationship. So therefore, it was constantly festering, and until suddenly the lights went on, and I sought the help, and bang, sorted.
Exactly.
But I'm sure, I'm very sure, in the next 5 years, something else will creep up on me. Something else will come back from my subconscious, and it is what it is. And
Right. It
I'm
is,
very happy.
it's not uncommon that that happens because I really liken our experiences to like we're an onion and there's different layers of the onion, you know, as you peel it off. And invariably, like you said, the experience that you thought you had cleared and you were done with, thank you very much, I'm
Mm,
done, been there. Okay, then suddenly something else comes up that again links you back to that experience. You're like, but
mm,
wait a minute, I took care of this. Why is this coming up? And
uh,
again, there's always some residual energy that maybe you didn't really take care of that you somehow it leaked back in. And so that's something that we're always basically working on our stuff, if you will, because there's always connections, you know, down the road as you meet different people and have different circumstances that are going to take
absolutely.
you back to kind of like recheck, did I
Mm,
really get rid of those feelings? Did I really truly forgive myself? And now I'm ready to move past this or not? So that's really, I think it's really a way to reinforce what we've already learned.
mm.
You know, like when you do a review in school and you used to review all the time the material at the end of the year. Oh my God, you got to go through all that again. But it's just to make sure that you really, really, you know, ingrained
Yeah.
it or really learned it. So that's what I think it is with us in this school of life. I think
Mm,
that we call here our experiences on this earth, that really we're kind of like re-experiencing sometimes challenging moments to see if in fact we really got the lesson, if we really, you
mm,
know, are able now to see it from this perspective now 20 years like you said later, and this situation seems familiar, and then you remind yourself, how did you resolve it the last time, or what can you do now differently because you have more experience, and it's 20 years later, and what would you do differently from when you were a young person? So I think that's a reason why sometimes we re-experience things in our lives. It's to see the outcome now that you have more tools, as you said, at your disposal. And so now, what are you going to remember to use those tools now to get you through that experience again and come out with flying colors, or,
mm,
you know, what can happen, you know?
yeah.
Are you going to experience it kicking and screaming, or are you going to be able to go through it and like, oh yeah, and I remember when this happened the last time, this and this and this happened, and I was
Mm.
so mad, but hey, I'm going to go with the flow now. I'm not going to get upset about it because I know that, you know, it I already went through something just like this, you know, different face, different place, but more or less the same feelings are coming up. And that's how you have to like look at your life from a different perspective. I think that's what it's meant to take you back so that you could re-experience it and then see that the emotional charge is hopefully not there. And now you handle it differently than you had before. So like to
Beautiful.
pass that grade and go on to the next
Exactly.
grade.
Exactly. The next
That's what I
mountain to
think.
climb. But that's life. That's why
Yeah,
you can
that's
like it or
life.
you lump it. The mountain will still be there. You better start climbing and
Right?
work on
Exactly.
it.
It's
Look,
just,
if people want to get to know you better, if people would like to work with you and explore some of their own demons and exercise those demons, shall I say, how do they go about it?
well, I have my website is called Healing Hearts and Minds because again, I work with the emotional stuff in your heart, your feelings, and then how you process them in your mind. So that's why I put the two together, Healing Hearts and Healing Minds. So
I
that's
love that actually. Mm,
www.healingheartsandminds.com.
yeah,
And also, I have a report on my website on the home page. You can, if you're feeling some stress now because of everything that's going on, obviously, in the world, I have a free report. So you can download that and it would bring you into my mailing list. So you can get a lot of more information and other articles that are helpful to you. But it's called Stress Stoppers. So you can link there to be able to sign up to be able to get that free report. And it talks a lot about the simple ways that you can help yourself dealing with stress on a day-to-day basis. So there's
beautiful.
ways that they could reach me, and
Mm,
if they want to have a strategy session, there's a button and a link there for also having a free strategy session.
that's brilliant.
So
And I'm going to put the
thank
links
you.
to your details below into the podcast and into the
Awesome.
YouTube video, so it is easy for people to get to you. No, that's brilliant. Oh, Michelle, I'm so grateful that we could make today, that we could set the time aside and have a really good
Yes,
chat about the anxiety and the way that we too see the world. And it transpired that we both are actually cut from a similar cloth as far as our insights are concerned and the way we think about the world. I like it that you do specifically say there's work to be done, and it is really work. It is not something that they come once to you or even three times to you. You hypnotize them and then all their problems are done. You are opening the door for them, but they
that's
have to
it.
walk
That's what I
through.
always say. I have the key to your transformation, but you have to be willing to open the door
Yeah, exactly.
to let yourself in and out. So you have to be willing to open up your conscious mind, your
Mm,
subconscious mind particularly, and allowing the transformation to happen. And then you have to continue, with the suggestions that I'm going to make, post-hypnotic suggestions, and then sometimes I
mm,
give people a chance to read certain books that might apply to their
mm,
situation or things they can listen to for difficulty with sleeping and so on. So lots of other things that we can explore together to
mm.
help you lead a better life, a happier life.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for all the beautiful work you're doing out there. I'm sure you will have struck a chord with some of our listeners and viewers. And I so hope that through your guidance, they can uh, go somewhere to a place where they recognize what they need to do, that they can see that they get the guidance that they deserve to turn their life around in that direction that they really want to head to, that they get the vision cleared, that they get their compass realigned, that they now know, okay, that's where I need to go. And yeah,
Exactly.
okay, there are a few hills in the way. Well, let's get going. And it's amazing. It's
There's
like,
always, you got to enjoy the journey.
oh,
There's
hell
always,
yes. Exactly. And you have no idea what you will experience on this journey. And
that's
certainly
right.
for me, the last 7 years were beautiful. I walked mountains. There were some avalanches as well.
Mhm.
There will be ups and downs, and some of the downs can be quicker than you blink. But
Right.
equally, the highs that I've experienced and that I do experience now are so much higher than any high due to alcohol I've ever experienced. Even the
Right.
best high at an early time is nowhere near the satisfaction and the joy that I experience now, because I'm living my life to the fullest in the present,
Absolutely.
not
Fully
in the
present. That's what I
past.
was
Yes.
just going to say. Yes.
Mhm.
And that's why you're enjoying it so much, because you're fully present now
Indeed,
and aware.
indeed. Ah,
Yeah.
Michelle, I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming onto my show.
Oh,
It was
thank
an
you.
absolute
It's a
honor to talk
pleasure.
to you. Absolutely. And let's
Likewise.
stay in
Likewise.
touch and see how we can support each other with regards to making this world just that little bit better, little
That's
steps by
right.
steps.
One person at a time. Yes,
Exactly.
definitely.
Exactly. Michelle, look after
Thank
yourself.
you.
And all of you guys out there, I hope you got as much out of this interview as I did. Look after yourselves and have a fantastic life, guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Dream on, dream on, dream on, dream